Hello, I'm Fred Kirk, and as part of my school's extended project programme, I've set out on the task to extract capsaicinoids from some of the hottest chilies in the world, with an end goal of having pure capsaicin crystals. I've come a long way on this journey so far, amassing a lot of chemical equipment, chemistry equipment to actually perform the extraction. It's finally come to the point in time where I can begin sourcing chilies and getting them into a state where I can actually extract capsaicin from them. In this video I'm going to be outlining the drying process of Scotch bonnet chilies. Potentially future videos will come out where I outline the next few processes in this chain. Scotch bonnets, which originate from West Africa and ubiquitous in cooking in that area, also known as the Caribbean red chilies, range between 80,000 and 400,000 Scoville heat units, making them in the high end of medium chilies, and certainly into the really scary chilies with the Butjolka and Armageddon, which is the English equivalent of that. Making it, yes, some very, very potent chilies. And I have about 1 kilogram of them, which I've recently bought from a shop in my home village, where I got a kilogram for about a tenner. So in this video, I'll be outlining how to go about drying these chilies. I cover 2 methods for this. I'll also be talking a bit about chili seeds and what to do if you would like to preserve them and use them for either to plant straight away or to preserve to plant in future. I think that sums it all up for now. So let's get into it. Here are the chilies. It is 1 kilogram of Scotch bonnet chilies ranging from 80,000 to 400,000 Scoville heat units. These are going to be what we are processing today. Not in the best shape, but it was very cheap.
The cameraman at this point is my good friend JD. He will probably be helping me out in the future with other parts of this project, so you're likely to see him around again.
I've no clue where these come from or how long they've been there, so I'm just getting all the shit off of them before I use them for anything, because like some of them are a bit grim, like, you know. I put the beakers out over there for the seeds to go in. Basically, because these are thick-walled chilies, we need to chop them up before we dry them. So I'm going to just do them into half and just decant the seeds into a separate container, because we're going to dry the seeds separately because they don't need as vigorous drying, basically. Seeds technically could be used to plant straight away, but because we're not planting them straight away, and especially because I'm giving some away and I might end up selling some if I get a lot from it, then yeah, you need to dry them so that they can be planted later on. So this is a pretty healthy amount of chilies. Alright, let's take it over here.
I'm going to take this time to just discuss with you why we dry chilies, and also my specific case of why I'm drying chilies. So normally drying is an excellent way of preserving chilies. The thin walls of the fruit normally allow them to be dried very easily, and it allows them to last until next year's harvest. However, in my case, for the extraction, I want everything to be as anhydrous as possible, because capsaicin doesn't dissolve well into water. So for that reason, I need them to be as dry as possible to make it very efficient.
And then in like 2 hours I'm going to need to turn them over as well. But that should be fine. Just the air in here is quite spicy. Or it might be just COVID symptoms, you never really know. So with these, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be attaching them on a long bit of string, either sewing it through the base of their stem or just tying it round, and I'm going to be attempting to air dry these in a completely different manner to them. So I'll leave them in my room for about 2 weeks, but I'll show the process of that later. With this, the plan is to kind of sort it out, separate out the seeds from the chunks, do a bit better job at that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it into like Ziploc bags and just leave it in a dark place for a couple of weeks until I can get around to planting them. And I'm going to give some to my mates, plant a few, maybe sell some, see what people want. Yeah, that's for later. I'll be doing that in here whilst I'm waiting up to dry. So it's been going for about an hour and a half now, and as you can see, they've shriveled. Oh shit! They've shriveled quite a bit, and are starting to dry out, as they should. So I'm gonna be in here, well, in and out of here for the next about 5 hours. Opening the door every so often to let moisture out. Checking up on them, making sure they don't burn, because last set I did, I think they almost crystallised inside, or not crystallised, but the sugars must have formed some. They melted and they burned, and they weren't very good. However, I need these to be crispy. The last set I did were almost chewy. I'm trying to improve on it every time, but yeah, we'll see. Okay, so the chilies have been going for about 3 hours now, so I think it's about time to flip them over. We're going to have a look at how they're going. They are, so as you can see, they have decreased in volume. They've started to crinkle. The little bits, the husks, have certainly started to lose a lot of water content. The side of this has been steaming up quite a bit. I've wiped it once already to try and decrease the overall water concentration inside the system. And yeah, I'm going to get them out and I'm going to turn them over. And yeah. Also, I have made this. It's going to be an attempt to see a different process of drying chilies, and this one's used quite a lot. All this consisted of was me threading some string through these chilies and securing it off with a few knots. So we'll see how that goes over the course of about 2 weeks. That should take for that to fully form into fruition. I'm going to get this GoPro set up onto the tripod here, and we're going to have a look at how these chilies are doing, and I'm also going to flip them over so they can have another few hours on the other side. So we're about halfway through the drying process, so it's time for me to begin flipping them over so that they can get the other side of them particularly dry. The outer layer of them is normally the hardest layer to dry because it's the bit that protects them in their environment from being dried out. The innards are quite easy, so that's why I've started off this side. I'll probably end up spending much more time on this side than I will the other side. These are the chilies. At the moment they are very squidgy, showing how they definitely haven't fully dried, but they're a lot baggier, and they've got some obvious signs of being a lot drier, such as this one, which is very crispy, and the smaller bits have also shriveled up a lot. I'm now going to flip them over and we'll carry on drying them. So I don't want to use my fingers particularly, although I will be washing my hands after this anyway.
I'll also take this time to note that not all chilies need to be dried in this way. Some thinner walled chilies can just be dried as they are, not cut into two.
Okay, so it's now 1:15. I have been waiting for these to sufficiently cook. They're not finished. They're not finished, I admit it. They're still a bit gooey. I'm just going to be storing them for now so that I can do it at another point. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be having a decent amount of salt in here to be able to take some water out of them. Whilst I can't, I'm going to add some table salt to this container, and I'm going to add it once I've put some stuff in as well. Okay, so that should not only preserve them, but also, help dry them and take the moisture out of the air, because they are still annoyingly a bit gooey. I thought they would be a bit more crispy. Some of them are quite crispy. You can hear some crunches when I'm lifting them up. But I'm also hoping I can fit them all in this jar. I'm going to compress them down a bit because there's no need for them to be really protected. They're going to be crushed up in the end anyway.
I'd mentioned previously in the video that at one point in time the drying process didn't work so well for me. A previous batch I'd done went very chewy rather than crispy, and this is the thing that I'm really trying to avoid this time round by hopefully doing it over a longer period of time rather than getting impatient. This shouldn't occur, but we will see as time goes on. We will see whether that has worked.
I'm also being really careful to only use one hand to touch anything, because I understand that this hand has a very chilly hand at the moment.
Although this video was created primarily for my extended project qualification for school to show different skills being used as part of my project, I don't mind if this becomes part of my routine, as I'm certainly going to have lots of spare time on my hands now that I'm in quarantine, so I might end up making many more videos following similar ideas or just surrounding my life in general.
Finish off with some salt. But yeah, this is it. I'm going to leave the lid off for a bit because it's just been heated up, so it's going to create a lot of condensation on the inside of it anyway, so I'm going to leave the lid off for tonight, I believe. I need to wash my hand and clean the kitchen, ensuring I get rid of any trace of chili. It is now the next day. These had been in the jar overnight with the lid off. And as you can see, this is about 1 kilogram, well, it is 1 kilogram, of dried Scotch bonnet chilies. The salt that I put in there, as expected, has become quite sticky, and I can also see some water droplets inside, showing how it really was necessary to have this salt in here, as it has not only drawn some water out of the air, but probably continued the drying process in the chilies themselves. This will undergo another process of drying, probably another 5 to 6 hours, which I'll outline very briefly in another video. But this acts really as stage one of the drying of these chilies. So another byproduct of the extraction was the seeds. So what I've done is I have put them in a airtight bag for now. I've also kept them in a dark room overnight, and with the intention of eventually drying these, clearing them up, making them clean, and planting them and giving them to some friends for them to plant. And yeah, so the process of drying chili seeds goes as follows. Now, with chili seeds, it's very possible for you to take them straight out of the plant and the chili and plant them into the ground, plant them with some good fertilizers, and you'll have a fertile plant in no time. However, this isn't very applicable to all situations because I don't have the intention to plant them straight away, and also I would like to save some for the future, and also potentially sell some, but that's not looking very likely. But you know, there's always the option for that. But also I want to give them to my friends for them to be able to plant at any point in the future for them. So what you have to do is you have to bake them on a low heat, very low heat. So you dry them for about an hour until they don't bend. So when they're bendy, that means they're not ready to be kept for a long period of time. But when they don't bend, when they would crack instead of bend, that represents the point at which they are ready to be stored and planted in the future. So I think that sums up this video really. I hope it was informative, and I will probably be putting out another video for the next stage of this, which will not only outline the finalization of all this drying procedure, but also should begin to actually look at the extraction of the capsaicinoids from the plants themselves.